guys, what's up? It's Katie Candy and the Droker here with another episode of From Comics to Cinemas podcast. For those of you who don't know, we are gamers on Twitch, and you can see the links to those channels in the description of this video and at the end of the video, so be sure to drop us a follow. And you can catch the live recording of the show every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time in the Candyland Discord, and I am super excited to talk about today's topic because she's awesome. She's awesome. She is awesome. An HVIC of epic proportions, and I really feel like they could have done more with her in Thor Love and Thunder. So yeah. Who are we talking about specifically? We are talking about Mighty Thor. That's right, Jane Foster. And we're not going to go into all of the details about Jane Foster because she's had a long run. We're specifically going to be talking about Mighty Thor because she's amazing. Like, and she had it rough, right? Because while Thor was off fighting Gore, there we go. Jane Foster learned that she had developed breast cancer. And that's really sad because there's really not much that they could do for her. So she did end up going to chemo, but then she heard... I should take a step back. During the events of Original Sin, when Thor was fighting Nick Fury whispered a phrase to Thor that shook him to his core. And oh my God, could I rhyme any more?
I was going to let you just keep going, man. Someone drop a beat.
But Nick Fury whispered to Thor, Gore was right. And that shook him so much that he felt like he was unworthy to wield Mjolnir. So yeah, he believed it. And that's really sad. And he ended up not wanting to be called Thor. He went by Odinson. And so Jane actually ended up going to Asgard and was spending time on Asgard. And she heard Mjolnir basically like calling out to her. So she asked Heimdall to send her to Mjolnir's location. And he did. And that's when she touched it and she was deemed worthy because she said the universe always needs a Thor.
Right.
And so in saying that, then Mjolnir deemed her worthy. And actually it's pretty cool because the inscription on the hammer changed from he to she.
She.
Yeah. So I thought that was really cool. And she became Mighty Thor. Not Lady Thor. Not Girl Thor. Not Thorita.
Whammin' Thor.
not Whammin' Thor. Thor. And Thor. And I really like that because it shows that Thor is not a name, but a title. And she proves that throughout this comic arc and this story arc. And if you haven't read this story arc, I highly recommend it. There's also a couple YouTube videos out there that you can basically just listen to it. And it is an amazing story arc. So if you haven't heard it, I highly, highly recommend it.
Yeah, and the reason why she was on Asgard was because she was also like playing senator for like Midgard on Asgard, like she was representing Midgard.
Yeah, in the Congress of Worlds.
Yeah, that's the one. So yeah, she was playing. She was, I guess, diplomat essentially, and that's when she kind of discovered her calling as Thor. And it's kind of cool because like who is Heimdall saw it coming? Like Heimdall
sees everything.
No pun intended. But Heimdall literally saw it coming. Who I'm talking about. And he's like, yeah, absolutely. It's just, I don't know. It's an amazing moment. And like a lot of comic book fans like myself back in the day, especially when I didn't read any Marvel, especially back in 2014, we were extremely confused to hear about Whammin' Thor and basically what happened to Odinson, what happened to Thor. So it was cool to learn about all this.
It was really cool too, because like Odin was even like, you stole the hammer. Like they basically, Odin saw her as like an imposter Thor, even though she's going around and fighting all kinds of, evildoers, as we can call them, villains, whatever. And, Thor actually has like a list of everyone he thinks it could possibly be. And he actually crosses off Jane Foster because he's like, oh, she has cancer. There's no way it could be her because she wore the mask to keep her identity secret, right? And so, anytime she became separated from Mjolnir, she actually reverted back to her kind of weakened state. And every time she used Mjolnir, the way it worked was, even though she was undergoing chemo, because she wanted science to cure her, she didn't want any magical cures,
right? No magic,
right, for the cancer that she had. So, but every time she used Mjolnir would actually purge the chemo out of her system. Right. So essentially it was making the chemo null and void. Null, no pun intended.
Right.
So, she was essentially killing herself in an effort to do good in the world, or the universe, I should say. Yeah. And she has a lot of battles trying to prove, like, that you need to keep up the good fight. You need to do good in the world. There's, all kind of stuff. She ends up battling two gods because they're like, what are you doing? You're upsetting the balance type deal. And she goes through all of these trials and tribulations. And each time she does it, she saves the majority of the bystanders or citizens or whatever. And they start praying to her instead of to their gods. And the gods get so upset by this, they actually unleash the Phoenix.
Yeah. And they do it in a really, I don't want to say weird way, but like they start making out basically, and their love is what unleashes the Phoenix on the universe. I thought cheesy, but I get it.
I thought it was kind of cheesy, but you totally get it.
You can't fight love. Okay, whatever. Yeah, cool. And there was another character that was introduced. What was his name? Gladiator, or what was his name?
Yeah, Gladiator.
The Gladiator, yeah. He was just tossing people around the entire time, just like super powerful. And he basically wanted Jane Foster because he was serving those gods. They were like, I forget the names, but they were really, I liked them, but for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
They are completely full of themselves. Completely.
They
think their disciples are just whatever. You can literally kill them by the thousands. They're still going to worship, us. We're amazing. We're the best.
Yeah. They were very much full of themselves.
It was like a contest with like rules, and there was like a guy that I forget his name, but he had like a notepad, and he was like, keeping a ledger of everything.
And it was going on in Omnipotent City. So
yeah.
So they were like, there was like scores, and they were keeping track. And what she actually ended up, they were like, oh, she's disqualified, and he's like, no, she actually won. She failed every trial because she kept trying to save everyone, right? But because like of all the prayers and everything, she ended up winning, which is crazy if you think about it.
Yeah, because she got the prayers of other gods is what happened, and it was Kull, Odin's brother.
Yes.
And what's her name? Sif. That were coming over basically, and like we're coming, we're gonna like exact vengeance because they had attacked old Asgard.
Yes.
And it was crazy. They're like, yeah, she won because gods were even praying to her. You don't have gods praying to you.
Yep.
And they were not happy about that.
They were not. And
no.
Which is it's crazy because like if you think about it, if you have gods praying to a mortal, because she was, right?
Immortal.
Yeah. She wasn't an Asgardian. She was a doctor who unfortunately developed cancer and happened to be deemed worthy by Mjolnir and became this super powerful being. And she was, because she could actually get Mjolnir to do things that Thor couldn't do. Yeah, which was amazing.
Yeah, and she's shown this compassion before, which is why the Hammer chose her. She showed this back in, was it Civil War, where she and Night Nurse were actually like the medical team for Cap's team during that whole thing, just taking care of everybody. So she's always kind of been this pure heart. She's shown it in the past, and that's why the Hammer was like, you. So that was pretty cool. And the whole God thing was cool.
Yeah, it was really cool. And she's actually like the whole reason. Well, she's not the whole reason, but she kind of leads into the whole War of the Realms and all of this other jazz that starts happening, which is a crazy story arc. You guys should totally check that one out as well. So, but she, I mean, and the whole thing too, because Call's brother was there, or excuse me, Odin's brother Call was there watching over Asgard because Odin was kind of locked away because Loki had stabbed his adopted mother Freya with a poison. He does. But I do like when she finally got well and she confronted him and he was like, "Do you think you would be alive if I wanted you dead?
If I wanted you dead, you'd be dead. I placed the blade exactly where I needed to place it." Like, so that's thanks, I guess. What do you say to that as a mother? I mean, yeah, she's Freya, I get it, but like, what do you say to that? Like, high five, thanks for stabbing me but not killing me, son.
It's like
this family's got issues, man.
They've got
got hella issues.
Oh my god, they have so many issues. Starting with Dad. Like, Odin is just a jerk.
Odin's a jagoff. I'm sorry. He's the definition of your word. I'm stealing it. He flip-flops more than a politician. It's crazy, especially in this story. He was like, they told Jane, because Jane was off doing Mighty Thor things, right? And so she wasn't fulfilling her duties in the Congress of Worlds on Asgard. So they were like, look, either you start fulfilling these duties, going to your chemo and getting well, or go the magic route to get well, or get out. Yeah, leave, because you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing here.
Right. So then she was like, you know what? You're right. So that's when she appointed Roz from S.H.I.E.L.D. to take her place in the Congress of Worlds to represent Midgard.
Yeah. Which originally is who Thor thought was Mighty Thor.
Yeah, he thought it was her, Valkyrie. Like, he actually assembled a team of women that he thought
was the suspects.
Yeah, and then ended up showing up, and they were fighting. I believe it was the Destroyer. I could have been wrong.
No, it was the Destroyer. Yeah, because Odin sent the Destroyer after Mighty Thor.
Yes. Yeah. That's right. So, I mean, which is crazy. And we talked about this earlier, but that would have been, and we'll get into it a little bit more in the movie, but that would have been a so much better scene than the scene of like all the women teaming up in Endgame. So, because it actually happens.
It actually happened.
And like, he had Scarlet Witch, he had Captain Marvel, he had like every strong female character or female hero that he thought could be the Mighty Thor.
Yep.
So
and then what's funny is she's still cocky like an actual Thor. Like, when they all show up, she's like, "I don't need you guys here. What are you doing here? Get out of my way."
And I love to, like, I know people were like ragging on the movie when she said like, "Eat my hammer," but she says that.
She says that, and absolutely. She actually makes him eat the hammer.
Yes, she makes several villains things also eat the hammer, which I think this is like a good time to jump into that, because so while all this is going on, we need to talk about so Thor goes on a mission to find a hammer, right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So he ends up getting a hammer from a different universe, and it looks kind of like a cross between Stormbreaker and Mjolnir. Like, there's an axiness to it and like a little bit of a hammer eness to it, but Volstagg gets a hold of it after the fire goblins come and launch an attack on Asgard, and a bunch of civilians are unfortunately killed. And so Volstagg is normally like super joyous, and he is part of the Warriors 3, so he's he's
pretty strong.
Yeah, he's a formidable guy, right?
He's just really gluttonous and jolly.
Yeah. He's like, if Santa Claus was a warrior.
Yeah, he's a Viking Santa Claus. That is the perfect way to describe him. Yes.
So he picks up the hammer. It calls to him. And this hammer makes you rage out. And he basically, I don't want to say hulks out, but
he pours out.
Yeah. He takes he becomes known, he gives himself the title War Thor.
War Thor.
And I'm going to pass this on to you because I know you fell in love with War Thor.
I fell in love with this character. It's such a good character. He looks so cool with the dark armor, and think of, if you've read DC Comics, think of Red Lantern Corps, but with a Thor hammer. it's just rage incarnate. That's exactly what it is. It's not from this universe. It's from another universe with the ultimate universe where like everybody dies basically. And this hammer has the rage of that entire universe like inside of it.
Yeah.
So and Volstag's the one it calls to, because earlier Thor actually uses I don't think he picks it up, but he grabs the handle and he uses the power from that hammer to defeat like Proxima Midnight and like Malekith, I think.
Yes, yeah, because and the Collector, because
and the Collector, right?
Yeah,
the Collector was trying to go for the hammer. That's what it was.
Because him and Beta Ray Bill are being held captive by the Collector. Yeah.
Yeah, so they go for it, and he harnesses the power and channels it, and he's like, but this is not my hammer. It will call to the right person, and the right person comes along, man, and it's full, and he looks like he's just jacked. He doesn't have the big beer gut anymore. He looks yoked. He's got spikes coming out of his gloves. Somebody punches his beard, and his beard doesn't even move. And they're like, "What's your beard made of?"
And he's like, "Pure rage."
Yeah, such a good answer. Wow, my God. I fell in love with this character. And it's such. Now I know why Nemus goes on about War Thor, because, dude, such a good character. And now I know why you were like, "Oh yeah, wait till you get to War Thor," and then realize that they can't do it in the MCU. And I was like, "Oh."
It's very sad, yeah. Taika Waititi, why'd you go and kill off Volstagg in Ragnarok?
Man, to see that on the big screen would have just been. And not only that, he beats the ever-living crap out of Mighty Thor.
Yeah, they go at it, and she is trying to like save the Fire Goblin kids and everything, because he doesn't give
blinded by rage.
Yeah, yep. He's blinded by rage. That's the best way to put it. He's blinded by rage. So he is just going off, right? Like just going off. And then it's only when someone, or something, I should say, is awakened. And it's something that Odin is like, nope, every time this being shows up. So for those of you who don't know, that being is Mangog, or the Mangog, I should say. And Mangog, he's basically the incarnation of an entire planet's or worth of inhabitants full of rage and hatred. And that planet happens to be one that Odin just kind of slaughtered. So he has a huge vendetta against Odin.
Specifically Odin and Asgard.
Yeah. Specific. Like, he's like, where's Odin? Right? Only, like, I picture it in a more, like, monstrous voice.
Oh yeah, he looks crazy in the comics. You know, he looks like one of those like tiki gods you see like on like walls. But like way more evil.
Exactly. And the thing about Mangog is Mangog can never really be destroyed. He can only be contained. And so that's kind of what Odin always kind of does to him, is contain him.
That's all you can do.
That's all you can do. But literally, so for those of you who haven't watched me play Phasmophobia, I have a tendency to sometimes hide in the van.
That's what Odin did. Odin saw Mangog. No. Well, he didn't see him. He felt him.
He felt him. Yeah.
He's such a powerful being.
Yeah. So at this point in time too is when Jane Foster is in the hospital, because Odinson took her to the hospital. Doctor Strange is kind of giving her the once over, and Falcon's there. By the way, I should mention too, before I jump off subject, or I'm just going to do a little sidestep here. When she was Mighty Thor, she had a little bit of a little fling there with Falcon when he was Captain America. So I should make note of that.
Which is why I only learned about that afterwards. I was like, why was he there?
That is why. So Doctor Strange is kind of giving her the once over in the hospital, and he's like, girl, look, if you use that hammer one more time, it's gonna be your death sentence. So she knows Mangog is on the loose. And so she actually goes to touch the hammer and then pulls away when they're all standing there. And then she ends up going for it. And because she realizes, like, she's like, I have to do this. This may be the end of me, but this guy has to be stopped. And she tells him to eat her hammer. She Mjolnir gives him a full-on like uppercut, and she is battling Mangog, and that's when Odin finally like gives her the respect that she deserves, because he's like, oh, she's kind of doing something that I was too afraid to do. And so what ends up happening is she knows she can't defeat him, and the only way that she can beat him is to contain him. So what she does is she gets chains that were used to hold
what was the name?
Fenrit? Hela's wolf. The big wolf. Yeah. And so she gets those chains, ties them to Mjolnir, and wraps Mangog up in these chains and throws him into the sun, which destroys Mjolnir, which then causes her to be reverted back to the cancerous state, her frail self, and she dies. And she's sent to Valhalla. But she doesn't go in. Nope. She's standing there. And so Thor and Odin kind of, they channel the Tempest. I forget the full name. It's the Tempest. And anyways, so they bring her back to life. And then she becomes a Valkyrie, and she is just awesome. So I really feel like people, when this comic was first released, misinterpreted who she was.
Completely.
Yeah.
Completely.
I feel like they really kind of misinterpreted who she was, because she was a Thor. Mm-hmm. And she proved that Thor is not a name. It's a title. And I mean, even Volstagg proved that, right, with War Thor. And I think that was Aaron's whole point of that comic too, was even if he left out War Thor, he proved with Jane that Thor is not a name, it's a title. And she actually convinces, when she comes back from the dead, because she was dead. She was dead.
She dead.
She dead. But she told Thor, the universe, there always must be a Thor, and that allowed him to feel worthy enough to pick up Mjolnir again.
Yeah, it's funny because it actually took Odin getting smacked around by Mangog to be like, oh, you know what? You don't hit that hard. I'm freaking Odin. Let's do this. And like, I was like, oh, okay. It only took him just beating the crap out of you to wake up and be like, oh, yo, this wasn't that bad. I don't know why I was so afraid. Yeah. And it was like this whole like moment where like Jane Foster's out front of Odin's door, and she's like pleading to him, like, yo, get off your butt and do something. Like, what are you doing? This is why, God, this is why people think gods are undeserving. I mean, look at what you're doing right now. And he's like, how dare you? And then Freya comes out and he's like, no, she's right, dude. Like, we need to prove ourselves again to these people. We haven't been doing a good job. Yeah. And it's like this whole crazy arc. It's just, man, it's so good. And they had so much. It's like I said before the show, I'm because I'm learning more about the Marvel Universe. I'm understanding, like, I actually don't like Love and Thunder anymore after learning more about Mighty Thor. Just because I feel like this was such a missed opportunity for such a great story. Leave Gore out of it. Bring in Mangog. Modify the Warriors 3. Bring in. You know what? You've got the multiverse open. Bring in another. War Thor from another universe.
They could have easily done that. They could have easily have done that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you know what? Let's jump into it. Let's jump into how she was in Thor: Love and Thunder. Yeah. Because I do listen. We did a whole podcast on Gore. We did a whole podcast on Thor: Love and Thunder, and how, well, I hated it, but
yeah, and I did like it because I was ignorant. I didn't know about Mighty Thor, but now that I know about Mighty Thor, how dare they?
Yeah, here's the thing, is they had a really good opportunity to introduce Mighty Thor, right? Mm-hmm. They could have made it into 2 movies. That way we get 2 movies of Jane as Mighty Thor, right? And instead we get whatever Thor: Love and Thunder was. I don't know. Like frat bro Thor.
We got cancerous funny Thor is what we got.
Yeah.
Like, I hate to just put it on the head like that, but that's exactly what we got. I forget. I think it was in the pitch meeting video. He even mentioned something about that. He's like, "Cancer's funny." It's like, yeah, no, that was pretty much how I felt like about that whole thing. But yeah, like you said, it was just a complete missed opportunity.
It was, and even if they didn't, I mean, even if they didn't want to use Mangog right away, I mean, they could have done so much more. And I feel like a lot of... I get it, like, people were upset, like, how did she get the hammer? How did she put the hammer back together? Why does she suddenly have all these abilities? It's because she does, right? They got at least that stuff right?
Yeah,
they got at least that part right. However, I think they kind of failed. And I know people were joking about when she's like, I need a catchphrase, like, eat my hammer, which is totally her catchphrase. So I did like that, but I feel like we didn't really get, like, the full showing of her in Thor Love and Thunder. I feel like we could have gotten more. I really could care less about, like, the romance between her and Thor, or her and, Odinson. I'm just going to call him Odinson, because if I say too many Thors, it's going to get confusing.
Oh, because she was Thor. She is Thor in this story.
And that's just it too, is she is still in this story. She's Mighty Thor in Thor Love and Thunder. And I really feel like they could have done more. I feel like they should have just done this story arc. It would have been
I agree.
So much better. Even if they make it so that they don't, Thor is unworthy, right? They don't even have to go that route. Right? They could have totally done something else. Or they could have done that route. They could have done kind of like an original sin type deal, only this time, like, he feels unworthy because of whatever happened in Endgame, right? And so then that's how she gets the hammer and, all this other stuff. So I feel like they really kind of fell apart in this whole movie.
What it seems like they're doing, at least from my perspective, is they're cherry picking parts of certain story arcs and putting it together into one story.
Right.
Especially with Thor, especially with this one.
Oh yeah, 100%.
They cherry picked a lot of random stuff from a lot of different Mighty Thor stuff, and it's just like, cause her story goes across a bunch of stuff. I mean, there's Malekith involved, Products of the Midnight, the Collector, Mangog. I mean, you've got like all the major players there, which I mean. All these names, they're not even introduced in the MCU.
They're like, we've had the Collector.
We've had the Collector.
And Prox, she got run over.
Prox got unalived.
Prox got unalived very quick. By the Scarlet Witch.
Yeah. I mean, which even she shows up, which like you said, in that one and the one fight against the Annihilator, Destructor, or whatever he's called. I forget what he's called.
The Destructor.
Which, by the way, Mangog bites the head off of Destroyer. Bites the head off of.
Yeah, he literally bites the head off the Destroyer.
Yeah, Frey is in control of it. And he just nom nom. Okay.
When I read that panel, I imagine he does go nom nom, just because of like.
Oh, I would.
How he is. He's like this big monster. No, right?
Yeah.
So,
it was, yeah.
And I know they're leading up to Secret Wars, and Jane does have some influence in Secret Wars, and Secret Wars is basically kind of like the reset button because of the whole multiverse thing. And I know they're leading up to that, but the problem lies in what you said, is it's okay to cherry pick some storylines, right, from different story arcs. That's fine. But you have to make sure those story arcs go together.
Right. Or you're not picking from like major stories that to me, I would consider the Mighty Thor a major story.
It is. As far as I'm right now, it's a major Thor. It is.
So you can't really. There's an expectation with like now, like I said again, knowing what I know, there's an expectation. This has got to be tangent. This has got to be what book readers feel like when they go watch a movie, and they're just like, "What is this trash?" This has got to be what they feel like.
It is. I can guarantee you it is, because there are certain movies that I've seen where I've read the book that I'm like, what?
See, I'm not that much of a book reader anymore, but like the comics is my jam, and so when I this is why I'm such a disgruntled DC fan, is because I know what they're supposed to be doing and they're not doing it, and I'm becoming a disgruntled Marvel fan because I'm learning what they're supposed to be doing and they're not doing it.
Like phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3 really stuck to it. Like they had a vision and they were building towards that, right? And now, like, especially with this movie, and it's fine if you want to have a movie that really doesn't have like a whole lot of tie-ins to anything else, But at least don't make it, like, destroy the other movies that were before it. Like, if you look at Infinity and Endgame Thor, right? Or not Endgame Thor, but if you look at Infinity Thor, Infinity War Thor from the movies was basically the Thor that we deserved, right? He was a warrior. Like, you could feel it when he was like, bring me Thanos, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
now we've got someone who's like cracking jokes. So it's very frustrating to want to be interested in what is happening in phase 4 because you have things like this. And comedy works, but comedy works to an extent. And Ragnarok was good, but Ragnarok was what we needed at the time, right?
Yeah. It fit.
Mm-hmm.
This does not fit.
This does not fit. This does not fit. This.
I thought it did. It did not.
Now, I'm not saying we need, like, a Dark World Thor, right? No. But we need to get away from this dumbed down bro version of Thor because for me, that's not the Thor that I like. I mean, he's not like that. They basically made him a dumb blonde.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I'd even take the whatever, the 10-year drunk Thor where he just got lost in space being hammered.
Yeah.
I would have rather watched that. Just watch him unravel completely and then become a comic relief.
Yeah. And that's what happened in this movie too. And if they wanted to make this a movie about Mighty Thor, which I feel like they should have.
They should have. They should have.
They shouldn't have called it Thor Love and Thunder. They should have called it Mighty Thor. Because the comic readers would have known it's about Jane Foster.
Yeah.
Anyone else would have thought it's about Thor.
A Thor.
Right. Yeah, Odinson. But if they would have called it Mighty Thor and went a more heavy-based Jane route and did something along the Mighty Thor comics, which it looks like they were trying to do, like they pulled elements from that and they pulled elements from, Thor, God of Thunder, which basically set up Mighty Thor. It was too scattered, too like, I'm just going to throw darts at a board and pick and see which makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, they even, in the Mighty Thor, they even cross over, I forget the mutant's name, but he's on Krakoa, and they're like, hey, man, we need your help with this whole Phoenix thing. And he's like, oh, now you have my attention.
Because he's supposed to be the Avatar.
Most powerful psychic. He's one of the next avatars.
Yeah, he's and so when he shows up, the Phoenix is like, you're not supposed to be here yet. And he's like, I know, line. But we gotta talk.
He's like, well, hear me out. I got a deal for you. And he actually harnesses it. Mm-hmm. And, I get what that's probably something you probably can't do in the MCU right now. Okay?
Right, which is fine.
I understand why. You really don't need to. That's just kind of like a Marvel. That's just bridging mutants into the whole Marvel, letting you know how big this story arc actually is. Okay. Yeah. So I get maybe we don't get that. Okay, cool. But like I said before the show, they didn't even say it was breast cancer in Love and Thunder, and I think that's important. I think it's extremely important.
Well, it is too because that's what her mother died from.
Yeah, correct, and that's the whole motivation of her. Like, and then she doesn't want the whole magic treatment; she wants science because that's what she knows. That's
exactly.
What she, Doctor Strange is even running spells, and she's like, "Hey, you're just looking, right? Like, no magic healing." And he's like, "Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
By the way, you're dying."
And that's what's so good about Aaron's writing here is when he first proposed this, right? He's basically says she has cancer, which means she's probably not gonna live through it, right? And so it's basically showing that this is only like a temporary thing, like chill out, fanboys, right? And then she ends up coming back as a Valkyrie.
And throughout this, we get a really cool view of Odinson. He's torn up, but he's still. What's funny is he still thinks he's not worthy, but he's still tearing up these giant monsters and beasts with his arm and his axe. And the dog joins him too. I forget the name of the dog.
Oh yeah, the dog. You know what? I'm surprised. Honestly, with everything that went on, I'm surprised Waititi didn't bring in the dog, the Hellhound,
right?
the big Hellhound.
Yeah.
with everything that went on, really? That's what you're going to leave out?
Oh, and now I finally get why you were upset with the goats, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because the goats were literally fighting gods in the comics, and they were just screaming in the movie.
Is it Tooth Gnasher? Tooth Gnasher got killed by Mangog. Like, Tooth Gnasher went to try to help.
Yeah. And he went after the Collector by himself.
Yeah. That's what. Now you know why I was so upset about you know why I was excited when I saw we were getting the goats, and then disappointed when I found out how terrible they made. They literally just made the goats into a meme. Tell me you don't know anything about the Thor comics without telling me you don't know anything about the Thor comics. When you're gonna put the goats in there and just have them be comedic relief, screaming in the background like they're a Taylor Swift meme.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's no, let it out, man, because I get it now. Like, I get it, because it's such a, you have such great, I say it all the time, you have such great source material. Why not use more of that, especially when you're tying in man, Hercules and the whole Zeus thing, and you're trying to do that, and then you're trying. And then Enchantress was involved in the story too. We don't even have Enchantress yet.
No.
And then the Troll King was a huge part of this. We don't even have him. Wait, actually, did we get him in? No, we got the Ice Giants. We didn't get the Trolls yet.
We got the Ice Giants, and we got the Dark Elves.
The dwarfs were a huge part of this entire story because of how. Oh my God, we got the origin of Mjolnir. Hello.
Oh yeah,
the actual origin of Mjolnir in the story arc.
So Mjolnir actually shows Mighty Thor how Mjolnir came to be.
Yeah, we got the actual. It's an actual conscientious storm trapped in this piece of metal.
Yeah, which is amazing, and how Odin wanted to pick it up, and it deemed Odin not worthy.
Odin trapped it in the storm. The storm got pissed and was like, "Yeah, no, I say who picks me up."
Yep, that's exactly what had happened. Odin wanted to pick it up to use it to go and conquer the 9 realms, right? And Mjolnir was like, I'm in charge of me. Mjolnir was literally like, my body, my choice.
Which again, yes, exactly. But which they took that from the comics and they put that in the movies, but then they made it a comedy. They made it was just like, oh, jealous, oh, so jealous, oh, and they put it in Stormbreaker. It really wasn't Mjolnir, but again, they're cherry picking things. It's almost like the comic nerd intern is feeding them facts, and they're just like, "What was that? Okay, yeah, we're gonna put that in there too. What was the last one? Yeah, no, we're not using that. What's the other one? Yeah, we're gonna use that." That's kind of what it seems like.
Meanwhile, the comic nerd's going, "No, wait, but you can't. Wait, that's stop. Not... Wait, stop. No, but
Take
you need
my name off this script." Wait, no, the goats shouldn't scream. Oh no, because like Tooth Gnasher, was the one who survived. No, Tooth. Whatever one survives, because one dies, it comes back in the final fight and starts kicking butt too. Like they're just such cool goats. And man, they just didn't. The whole relationship with the hammer, I think, was probably okay. I guess from the movie, but in the comic book, it's from the story. You actually really get a sense of understanding of why the hammer chooses Jane, what the whole reasoning is, not just. Thor, Odinson one day was like, "Oh, protect Jane Foster," and the hammer was like, "Okay." Like, that was such a lame. Now looking back, like, that's such a stupid reason, and the comic was just so much cooler.
Yeah.
Jesus,
man. I feel like they really only got a few things right with Jane. Number one, they got the costume right.
They got the costume
right, but. And I don't know if it was maybe a Natalie Portman type deal, but she didn't wear the helmet as much as she should have.
Yeah. No, yeah. She should have pretty much had it on all the time.
Yeah. And I also feel like Odinson shouldn't have known Mighty Thor was Jane until much later on in the movie.
Yeah.
Because she tried so hard to keep that secret. Like, she did not want anybody to know.
She really didn't. She didn't even want to know. she just wanted. Because at one point she had considered just staying Thor.
Yeah.
Because she was like, well, I could just live out the rest of my life as Thor and just never put down the hammer, but that's not really a way to live.
No.
And
was she like strap it to her back, or she just gonna carry it around?
I don't know. mean, I guess because there's only like what 5 or 6 people that have been deemed worthy ever.
Yeah.
Roughly ish.
Yeah.
And there's some name that I haven't even heard of before, or something Red somebody or other. I didn't even recognize that name. I didn't even look into it too much, but it was somebody else. I was like, Red something. Yeah, who are you? Anyway, but what we were talking about before, what I wanted to talk about was we had another opportunity for a Beta Ray Bill.
Yes.
And we have yet to get him.
Yeah. I feel like...
What are we waiting for here, guys?
Whoever wrote this movie, or I don't know, honestly, like... I really feel like, and I know we talked about it before, but I feel like Feige is really taking a step back with Phase 4. And you can kind of see it because I feel like it's really failing.
It's not, this is what we talked about last time. I don't think it's going to hit with comic book fans. I don't think it's going to hit with comic book readers. I think maybe what he's trying to do from a marketing standpoint is get a whole new generation of Marvel fans into the movies, which I get. From a money and like a Hollywood standpoint, that's kind of the point. Can't knock you for that. However, how dare you?
Yeah.
When there's such good material out there to choose from.
Well, and that's just it. There's so much good source material out there. I get wanting to change some things, but I mean, when you change 95% of the source material, why even bother calling it Marvel anymore?
I mean, because we got the involvement of like the oh god, there was like I'm gonna mess up all the names. The Shatari were involved. But yeah, you had so many. You had old Asgard, new Asgard. You had Asgard falling into the sun. You had this mutant coming over here in the Phoenix Force. Then you had War Thor going across the universe smashing stuff. Then you had Jane Foster Thor going across the universe smashing stuff. You had Odinson going across the universe smashing stuff. And then
and at one point in time too, you had the goddesses of thunder coming in and helping Jane out.
Oh, cool.
Right? So you had all of these opportunities for so many cool things to happen, and
so many shiny armors that you did not show.
You went with screaming goats.
I wanted to see all the shiny armors and the blades and the smashing with the beating up and the Thors and the thunders and the lightnings and the storm tempest with the channeling and the destruction of the sun. And no, we didn't get any of that.
By the way, it was when Odinson felt he was unworthy that he went and fought the space sharks.
Oh, there was lava sharks too.
Yes, there's lava sharks as well.
Yeah, because smacks War Thor smacks. Yes. What's his face with the lava shark? Oh, that was such a good fight, dude. He's beating the crap out of this fire demon, and she's like, "You're gonna drown in lava," and he's just like, "Yeah, okay, smack."
How insulting would that be to get hit with one of your own lava sharks? Like, yo, what?
Did you just smack me with my own fish? What's going on here? So insulting. It just reminds me of like when people would smack people with like salmon or something back in the day, but it was like on a whole cosmic War Thor level. Yeah. You know?
Like, great. Okay, that would have been a great piece of humor to add in. Right?
I'd love to have seen lava sharks get yeeted. It's been awesome.
Air yeet.
Oh, and we didn't talk about how Heimdall got blinded.
Oh, that's right.
He stabs Mangog through, and then Mangog breaks the sword, and then takes his head and shoves it on the sword that's sticking out of his body.
that one hurt my soul because like you're just like you see his head on the spot, and you're just like, oh, Heimdall, did you not see that coming?
Dude. He actually did. Because he says before that whole panel, he's like, "What happens next? I don't care to see or I don't care to watch or whatever." Because he knew it was coming.
He knew it was coming. Yeah.
Because he was like one of the few beings who could travel within a blink of Heimdall's one of blinks or whatever. So yeah, he knew it was coming. Man.
Yeah, because he destroys the Rainbow Bridge and like
yeah, because they try to bifrost him out of here, and he's like, "You think you could just bifrost me off of Asgard? LOL." Bridge broken.
Yeah, Mangog would have been a great villain for this. Yeah, I just feel like they kind of really choked.
Yeah, I completely think that they should have built up to Mangog all the way back to Infinity War.
They could have easily have done that.
They should have done the unworthy Thor route. They should have done the mighty Jane Foster Thor, Lady Thor, women's Thor route. And they should have done Mangog. To me, that would have been such a good progression of the Thor story in the MCU. that would have been a progression upwards. Like I feel like that would have been just good story after good story after good story.
Yep.
Now I think we're getting the down.
We're on the down
Thor, for sure.
And that's the whole thing too, is because you see all of the trials and tribulations that Odinson goes through, right? You see him, you know, becoming worthy, and then you see him become unworthy, and then you see him feel like he is worthy again and goes off and does Thor things. But what we got was just a sidekick character who, granted, like, even I think who was it that called it was Brunhild, the Valkyrie, who actually calls Odinson Mighty Thor's sidekick.
Yeah, Mighty Thor. Yeah, he's like, I'm no one's sidekick. He gets so angry.
And
she was telling Jane Foster to lose the hammer and lose the sidekick.
Right.
They're both gonna drag her down, basically. Right.
And like, here we are where Thor is actually like a sidekick and no longer like the main hero of the story.
Yeah, Nemes, I would have actually
preferred, he did, Brandon.
I would have preferred them to use Gore as like a herald of Mangog if they were going to do anything in the MCU. That's what I would have liked. Not like a herald of Galactus, but like as a Gore as like a disciple of Mangog, or some kind of like modification of that to introduce them both.
Or they just like teamed up, because Mangog is another god slayer.
Yeah, right? I was gonna say they have similar, not the same, but similar goals.
Yeah,
and I feel like you could have written that in a little better if you had just read some comics.
Yeah,
just flat out. Which again, I didn't know until what I know now after I read the comics. So now I get it. I see where it's coming from. I as an ignorant fan, that movie's great. Knowing the Mighty Thor storyline, man, like I said, I want the print issues. I want the actual issues. That story is cool as hell.
It's really good. Like Jason Aaron did a phenomenal job on that story arc.
You want crazy strong powers, you got it. You want crazy overpowered villains, you got it. You want multiple power level Thors, you got it.
You want crazy villains banding together, you got it.
You want good guys turning on each other, but then coming back together at the end and fighting for one cause. Boom, it's there, man. You want love? Boom, it's there. You want sadness, death? Boom, it's there. Like, oh my God, when the way what's his face, the dagger Malekith drops.
Oh my gosh! Hand, so Volstagg is War Thor, and he's battling Mangog, and Mangog just beats the ever-living hell out of him.
Literally beats him to a pulp.
Beats him to a pulp, and basically pushes him off the edge of Asgard. And he catches it, right? So he's hanging off the edge, and Malekith walks up, and Mangog's there, and he's like, "Are you a god?" And Malekith's like, "No." And he's like, "Then you are not of my concern." And he like goes to find Odin. And Malekith has a dagger. And I forget what he says to Volstagg. But Volstagg no longer has the hammer. So he's reverting back to himself. He's no longer like the fit, buff, rugged War Thor. He's going back to his like Santa Claus looking self. And Malekith drops the dagger on his hand. And Volstagg goes off into space.
Yeah, very, very, very compelling scene. Very good. Very good. That fight, that whole fight's actually really...
That fight is crazy.
Should have pulled that right out of the comics. That would have been a cool fight to see on the screen.
It would have been. Yeah, it would have been amazing to see what they actually could have done and what they failed to do.
Yeah.
Because they really failed. Hard.
Yeah, I really wish they would have, man, just because you could have even done the romance interest with Sam Wilson coming off of Falcon and Winter Soldier story, you know what I mean? And it's like you said earlier, man, we're coming off the heels of like we came off the heels of Loki. Like, it was one of the greatest shows I've ever seen, and this is what we're getting as a result.
Yeah.
Can we go back to before Loki? Because I kind of feel like that timeline was better. I'm probably gonna get some hate for that comment, but whatever. It is what it is. I don't know. I don't know. They need Feige, whatever his name is, to take back control.
Yeah. or something, or
Something.
have a serious rethink of what they're doing.
Something.
Because there's a reason their formula worked so well for phases 1 through 3. And they veered off that formula. And
it was true enough to the comics, but still
original.
Changed a little bit for Hollywood. And we were all willing to accept a lot of that. That's fine. Yeah. But now it's like...
And it's really sad because you miss out on really cool characters like Mighty Thor, like Mangog. And who knows? Maybe we'll see Mangog. I don't know. But I can't see us seeing Mangog without Mighty Thor. So, I mean, we can. There's multiple times that Mangog has made an appearance. But this is one of my favorites.
Yeah, and like, we again, the villains in this is really good too. We could have gotten any number one of those introduced instead of Gore. I feel like Gore was such a off. And then we talked a lot. It felt like an off pick, and then you see what they did, and you're like, okay, yeah, it was kind of an off pick. Why did they force that so much?
They really did kind of force Gore down our throats, and that's another reason why I was so irked at this movie.
Yeah. Well, what's funny is I wouldn't have said that not having done this research.
Yeah. The more you know.
It's a gift and a curse, man. It's like, yes, I'm happy I know, but also the rage builds.
The rage builds, yeah.
The rage builds.
It's really kind of terrible. And I will put the links to the videos on YouTube for the Mighty Thor storyline if you guys want to listen to it, because it's really good. If you don't want to read the comics, or you don't have access to the comics, I'll put that link in for you guys to listen to. It's like under 2 hours, so
it's like an hour and 40 minutes.
Yeah.
It's the comic historian has one. There's a couple other. Comic historian was the one that I liked. I think because he does kind of like not voice acting, but he kind of does. But it's decent. It's good. He does a really good job in this story in particular. It's just it's a long story.
It is a long story, but it's worth it. It's 100% worth it, because like you realize like she is super powerful. Like she goes toe to toe with a lot of foes, and she comes out on top. She does get her butt handed to her a couple times, but that's what makes it realistic, right? Because otherwise it's just like, oh, here's this super powered hero going around that can't be defeated. But no, she can. And she ends up actually being defeated, but not by what you would think.
Yeah, she's like the most worthy Thor, but she's also like a dying star. She burnt out at her brightest. Like that was the whole point of that. And then, like you said, she doesn't even die. She does, but they bring her back to life, and then she becomes a Valkyrie. And she's doing Valkyrie things.
She's doing amazing Valkyrie things, which that's also another really fun run. Yeah. So
I'm going to look into that one for sure, because that is just, actually.
She looks really cool as a Valkyrie too.
Sorry, there's a picture of a Jane Foster Thor from Marvel Contest of Champions on my Wikipedia thing, and I'm just like, it caught my eye, and I'm like, that's from MCOC, okay. Weird. There's also Lego Jane Foster Thor. There's okay, I see. Okay, so I mean all the video games. Okay, I see what's going on here. I was really confused for a second. I was like, "What's there, an ad or something?" Sorry. Anyway, yeah, it was a good run. I'm very happy we got to talk about her. I'm very happy we got to look into her. I'm very upset that I know what I know now and seeing the movie that I saw, because I would have just much rather had a Mighty Thor 2-part, like you said, or even a 3-parter, doing that whole story.
Yeah,
beginning to end with War Thor.
You know what? I challenge people who said they liked Thor: Love and Thunder to go back and look at the Gore versus Thor, right? So that's Thor, God of Thunder, and the Mighty Thor story arcs. And tell me after you either read or listen to those if you still like this movie.
I would be willing to bet they would change their mind like I did.
Yeah,
I would be, because that is such good source material, and that what we got was not in comparison. I mean, again, we talked about certain parts, like when she went to New Asgard and she yada yada, get the hammer, yada yada yada. But overall, they did not do her justice.
They didn't.
She was super. She was. I would say she was actually a more powerful Thor than Odinson when she was in full gear, ready to go.
Yeah. And that's because, and this is just my opinion on it, is mainly because like Thor had that glimmer of doubt, right? That he felt unworthy. And so if you're doubting yourself, which Jane never did. Not once did Jane doubt herself. But it wasn't arrogance.
Right.
It was just belief.
She just had to, because she had to believe. There was no other reason, just because that's all she had left.
Yeah.
And that's why the Hammer chose her.
Yeah.
It says something about, which is great because it's a story about faith, not losing faith, but having faith, which we're coming off of, which in the comic books, that you're coming off a story about losing faith.
Yes.
So if you look at that as like one giant arc, these two stories together, that's actually really cool, man.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah. Aaron does a really good job. It's a really good story.
Yeah, Jason Aaron just is becoming that name that I'm starting to hear more and more, and I'm starting to be like, yeah, I like his stories.
They're really good.
Yeah,
and that's the thing too. He has a vision, right?
Good word. Yes.
He has a vision, and they all work out so well.
They translate really well. And whatever artist did the work, great job, fantastic job on Mangog, fantastic. Mighty Thor looked amazing.
She looks awesome.
Oh, her helmet is sick. It's so, and like, when Mangog's stepping on the helmet and the helmet's all crushed, and then she just uppercuts the living crap out of him. Such a good panel. You're like, yeah, her head's about to pop. Oh wait, never mind.
Mangog just, wow. Okay.
She just, you can just got him, dude. It was so good. It's just, I'm so happy I got to learn about this stuff, because Thor is actually becoming one of my favorite characters in Marvel, just because of what I'm learning about. Because I always thought he was kind of like Superman. I just kind of wrote him off as like, he's all powerful, whatever, dude. Can't kill him.
He goes through the ringer.
Yeah, some really cool stories.
Yeah,
for sure. And I do like that it is a mantle. I do like that Thor is a mantle.
I do too.
Big fan of that. Big fan.
And I think that's what, back to the movie. That's what the movie missed.
Oh, that's actually a really good point. It did miss that completely.
It completely missed that. It was so focused on like love and stuff that it totally missed such a great opportunity.
You're actually right on that. They didn't even, because you don't get that feeling at all.
Because they call her Jane. They don't call her Mighty Thor.
They don't call her Thor. And he has Stormbreaker too. He doesn't. What's the axe he has in the comic? It's
Oh gosh, I forget the name of it too.
It's not Stormbreaker.
Because Beta Ray Bill has Stormbreaker.
So yeah, Beta Ray Bill has Stormbreaker. So it's not even what we got in.
And it's a very plain looking axe, like nothing fancy.
Like the handle and an axe.
Yeah,
and he does
very Viking like.
Yeah, and I forget the name, Mjorn or something. I forget, whatever. Anyway, it has a name, but it's not as powerful as Mjolnir or Stormbreaker.
Not even close.
So, which I need to learn why Odin gave Stormbreaker to Beta Ray Bill, because I have no idea about any of that Beta Ray Bill stuff, and now I want to know.
So. Beta Ray Bill is a really cool story.
Yeah. Beta
Ray Bill is a really cool story. The Hammer deems Beta Ray Bill worthy.
Yeah, because I know like he creates that hammer with the Odin Force or something, or I forget. It's a special hammer that's for him basically. So. Yeah, I need to read more on that one, because I'm mad, because he tries to give the hammer to Thor and he's like, nah, dude, that's yours.
yeah.
That's your hammer. Dude.
Yeah, when they were on the ship, he was like, no.
He's like, it's yours. I'm not worthy, and he's like, nah.
Did you just call it Nom Nom?
Nom Nom?
Yarnir? Yarbor. Did you call it Nom Nom?
I might have. Now I'm just thinking about the Turtles movie. The Num Nums? Num Nums.
Oh my god, with the big turtle.
With the mutated wolf. Turtles. Yeah.
Babies! They're babies!
Anytime anybody says Num Nums, that's what I think of immediately.
Oh my god.
Yes, Yarn, Bjorn, yeah. A little Viking axe, dude. Well, not little, but...
Nom Nom.
Nom Nom, dude.
We got Mew Mew. We got Nom Nom.
Great names. Fantastic names.
Such good names. Oh my god. But yeah, Mighty Thor, she's a great character. She is a true hero. She basically sacrificed herself to save Asgard. So
there it is.
There's the
sacrifice. She did, and she. Well, I mean, as far as we know, Mangog's tied up in the sun. So
yeah.
There's that. I guess he's gonna be there for a little bit. I got to figure out what happens to him now, because now I have questions that I haven't answered.
He's there for a while.
I imagine so. He seemed pretty OP as a villain.
He is super OP. So, okay. But yeah, Mangog's a cool villain.
Would have rather had him.
Yeah. Overall, they failed with Mighty Thor, with the story, which we said we kind of called it in the Gore podcast because we hadn't seen it yet because it wasn't released then, and then we watched the movie and you were disappointed, then you were like, no, it's okay after you saw it the second time, and now you're like, mm-mm.
Yeah, now I'm actually convinced that they just, I don't know what they're doing. Because I'm telling you, man, is probably one of my favorite comic book stories that I've read in the past 10 years that I've come across. It's such a good story.
It's really good. And that tells you, folks, we are slowly converting Joker from DC to Marvel.
Don't you tell anybody either. I do. Oh God. Anyway, I do want a War Thor tattoo. I want his hammer tattooed on my forearm. That is such a cool character. It's just that just resonates with me. That's a character like that.
He's a really, really cool character. But I don't think I have anything else to add for Mighty Thor. Thank you guys so much for listening. As always, you can catch the live recording of From Comics to Cinemas podcast every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time in the Candyland Discord, and the upload Friday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Apple Podcasts, Anchor, Spotify, YouTube, and now Google Podcasts.
Google, let's go.
Let's go. So thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll see you guys next week.
Later.
Bye.